Good afternoon. This is Dr. John Bennett broadcasting from Miami for MedGadget.com. Today we have the pleasure of having Avner Gal of Integrity Applications with their relatively new device, the GlucoTrack. We're also joined by the head editor of MedGadget, Gene Ostrowski. Hello, Gene.
Hi, John. How are you?
Very good. Okay, Avner, we'll just take it away.
Okay, so hello everybody, good afternoon. Good afternoon, John and Jean and all the audience, whether we have online or later on. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting me. So I guess that we will begin with a short presentation to have some information about diabetes, about what is the device, what's the difference between our device and the others. And then we'll see where it will take us to.
Very good.
So let's try to go to the presentation. The technology here.
Okay.
And there you go. Okay,
Yes,
so today we'll talk about the non-invasive glucose measurement in general, and then in particular about our device, which I call it truly non-invasive glucose measurement or truly non-invasive glucose monitor. And the reason is that, in my view, in order to be a truly non-invasive, you have to prevent anything to get into the body or any fluid go out of the body. Like in some cases, people are talking about withdraw interstitial fluid and call it non-invasive. In my view, it is invasive, although the color of the fluid is different. So anyways, what is the need, or why do we look for a non-invasive solution? And just as a background, this technology for the device like that for over 2 decades. But before we go forward with the presentation, I would like to announce that the device, unfortunately, not yet ready in the US, not ready approved by the US FDA to be sold or used in the US. We are in the process with the US FDA. We'll get to that later on. But it's very important for everybody to understand that at the moment, this is not allowed yet. So what are we looking for a non-invasive solution? We're looking for a painless device that you can use it as much as you like without any pain. It should be reliable, mainly to be precise and accurate, to give the results that you can rely on. And it should be very easy to use. You remember that many of the diabetes, mainly type 2 diabetics, are relatively old, and I'm very cautious on that being old, because that I'm also some people call me old, but anyways, to be used by everybody, the device has to be very intuitive, very easy to use, very user friendly, so everybody can use it without any problem. Once we have these 3 parameters fulfilled, then the device can encourage the user to frequently, him or herself, much frequently, and this is what is needed for in this disease. Therefore, also the cost, assuming we are talking about a device with no disposables, so also the cost will be reduced, and again, we'll talk about it later on. And if we sum all this together, we see that there is a solution that allows the users to monitor themselves more frequently and to have more information that them, as well as the doctors, are using and required. However, when we're talking about developing a non-invasive glucose monitors, we have a variety of hurdles, and we have to go through them and we have to resolve them before we have a truly device non-invasive. And here are some of the hurdles that we are talking about. By definition, when we are talking about a non-invasive device or non-invasive measurement, so it is indirect. We don't measure the glucose. In order to measure the glucose, we have to withdraw either interstitial fluid or blood, and then it automatically becomes an invasive measurement. So we don't measure the glucose directly. We do it indirectly by measuring some physiological phenomena of the body, which are correlated with the glucose level. So therefore, also the measurement is non-specific. And that, so by definition, we have noise that involved in the process. And by noise, I mean to a variety of parameters in the blood, variety of parameters in the tissue that contribute to the measurement and actually reduce the accuracy. And there is not only the internal, what I call noise, but also the external noise. Like, for example, the difference in temperature, in ambient temperature, that also impact the measurement, and we have to take care about it. So actually, we're talking about distinguishment between the signal, which is the glucose, and the noise, which is, in my view, everything which is not glucose. Again, because it's a non-direct measurement, and because we are referring to physiological phenomena which are correlated with the glucose, so therefore we have to teach the device what is the correlation between the signals that it measures and the glucose readings. And this process is called calibration. Talking about calibration, it's important to understand what is the duration, how long it takes to do the calibration, how often you have to repeat it, or the validity of the calibration, and how many prickings are involved, because in order to teach the device this correlation, you have to prick yourself and to measure with an invasive device. So this question we will refer to later on in the presentation. Again, another issue because of the indirect measurement is the lag time, which, by the way, it also occurs in continuous monitors that are measuring the interstitial fluid rather than the blood itself. So there is some lag time which also contribute accuracy. And we already mentioned the usability. The device has to be easy to use, should be very comfort, and it should also overcome a variety of human factors. And this is something which is very important to understand that we took care of from the very beginning. And I mentioned that because on the invasive devices, the human factors take a major role in the accuracy level, and many people are not aware about that. Now, the question is, was there any success so far? And the answer is, so far, there was no any success in developing non-invasive glucose monitors. So the question that raised is why that happens. Let's go back to the signal and the noise that we mentioned previously. So we have the signal, again, this refers in our case to the glucose. We have the noise, everything which is not the glucose. They are combined together, and then we see the signal to noise. And if you look on this slide, you can see that, I mean, you have to work a little hard on that, but then you can see the middle that you see the signal, which is surrounded by noise. And that's exactly what we are doing for living. We are distinguishing between the signal from the noise. And in other words, we need to increase the signal to noise ratio. And that can be done by two ways, either to increase the signal, the noise, or both, of course. So let's see what happened so far. As I mentioned previously, there were a variety of technology, variety of trials in order to resolve the non-invasive glucose monitoring. And a lot of money has been spent on this field. And technologies try to read that, just try to fix all of them in one slide. So there will be a lot of them. So I warn you up front, don't try to read it, but just to get the impression. We're talking about a variety of them. However, if you look at the top, you see that there are a variety of technologies which have a common denominator, and this is the optical. When we started the project, we concluded during the feasibility study that the optical technology doesn't work. Even a penny or a second on that, we decided to forget about that. Now, what's the common denominator for all these technologies? Remember the signal to noise. So all these trial actually were dealing with the signal. In other words, people were trying to increase the signal. And we decided that we are not able to do anything with the signal, with the glucose reading. So instead, we will deal with the noise. And what we are doing, we are reducing the noise. So just a few examples about devices that received the CE mark from 2002, so over 2 decades from now. Companies received the CE mark, but they're failed in the market. So we are not going to get into further details, but the pioneer in the field was the GlucoWatch by Cygnus, a US company. It was irritating the body, interstitial fluid were coming out, and the device were measuring that by chemical reaction. Again, it cannot be considered completely as a non-invasive because the interstitial fluid came out. Followed a year afterwards by Pentra, a Swiss company, with the device called, this is continuous device like the previous one, like the GlucoWatch. It was wear like a watch in the wrist. Again, the accuracy was very poor, and after a while, it went out of the market. Quite a while afterwards, in 2009, the Israelis start to show up. So the first device by Orsense, an Israeli company, 2009. In the picture is just a prototype. Actually, it's an artist concept. The technology was occlusion spectroscopy. The idea was to stop the blood flow and then to release it again, and the speed of the release depends on the glucose level. In 2011, another Israeli company came up with a device called the Combo. The company named Sinoga. They are still in the market, although the calibration. Remember, we spoke about the calibration. The calibration requires at least 200 prickings, and you can imagine that this is not that nice. In 2012, another US company from Silicon Valley, C8 Medisensors, came up with a based on Raman spectroscopy, like a variety of other devices. Again, it wasn't a success, and they went out of business. There are still some other attempts. So you can see on the left-hand side the GlucoWise, in the middle the Grove, another US company. Everybody probably heard about the Google Lens in the right, and the Symphony on the bottom. That's for ICUs. All of these guys are under development, not yet approved. So getting back to GlucoTrack. So what distinguishes us from the others? First of all, I said no optical technology whatsoever. And not only that, we came to a conclusion, because we are dealing with the noise, in order to reduce the noise, we came up with a very out-of-the-box solution, very unique one. We're the only one in the world that are using this kind of technology or this kind of approach. We're combining three independent technologies: ultrasonic, electromagnetic, and thermal. So you can look at it as if we developed actually three different devices independent from each other. And therefore, we have three signals or three measurements independent from each other. And then we developed a unique algorithm, a very sophisticated one, which actually takes in consideration all these three signals with a variety of other parameters, calculates the weight for it, or gives a weight for each one of the technologies, and then calculates the weighted average. Again, it's a very unique approach, box thinking, and not only that we are using multi-technologies, but also we are using multi-sensors. You can hear recently from other companies that came to the conclusion that multi-sensor is a necessity. Although in our case, from day one, we work with multi-sensors as well as multi-technologies. Looks like, and this one is the version that the outside version, the shape of the device is frozen in 2012. In the left-hand side, you see the main unit. In this particular case, it can support up to 3 different users. Must have its own individual calibrated ear clip that's on the right-hand side. And again, it's important to mention that the device already has a CE mark approval, Korean approval, and it's currently for type 2 diabetics as well as pre-diabetics. It's the only device in the world that approved officially for pre-diabetics, and currently only from the age of 18 and above. Obviously, we are working on reducing the age to the age of 6. I mentioned at the beginning that whenever you're talking about a non-invasive device, it must be calibrated. That's the way to teach the device about the correlation between the signals and the glucose readings. And when you're talking about calibration of a non-invasive device, there are immediately 3 questions that must be asked. How many prickings are involved in the calibration process? We mentioned one of the examples previously that require 200 prickings at least. How long it takes? Examples that I mentioned previously required every day calibration that requires 3.5 hours, 8 prickings. So you can imagine that this is not exactly considered as a non-invasive. And the last question is, what's the validity of the calibration, or how often you have to repeat it? And here are the big news of GlucoTrack. So this is how the calibration is done. We are making 3 pairs of invasive measurement plus measuring with our device with 10 minutes intervals. So let's answer the questions. How many? Process that requires only 3 data pairs. The whole process takes less than 30 minutes. And the most important, how often? Every 6 months we have to replace the ear clip. With the new ear clip, the calibration is valid for the entire 6 months. So to make a long story short, twice a year, half an hour, 3 prickings, that's it. And then from that point on, you can monitor yourself as many times as you like. Actually, the whole idea of the device is to encourage you to monitor yourself as many times as you like. No limitation, no blood, end of story. Very simple. And all that I mentioned is covered, was proved by clinical trials by third parties. Everything that I mentioned so far is proven by facts. The recent clinical trials that I'm going to show you now involved with the 44 subject data points, 16 females, 28 males, and it was conducted both in Israel and in Germany. 7 of the people were pre-diabetics, the other were type 2 diabetics, and the duration of the diabetes from 1 to 29 years, and the ages also from 48 to 80 years. I can mention that in the previous time we did all the way from 18 to 81. And the body mass is also a variety of from 23 to almost 46. So we are from slim to over obese, covering virtually the entire demography. Of the examples, again, these are only examples. If you look on the blue curve is the GlucoTrack, the red line is the reference, and we used a variety of references. And you see that there is a very nice tracking and the reference device. And even if there are fluctuations, which is the main problem of glucose monitoring, you see that even if there are fluctuations, GlucoTrack tracks very nicely and give the profile very precise. And there are some other 4 patients and some more. And we have many, many, many more examples. You see that the patterns are tracked, the patterns are kept, and that's what's important. And again, the importance is to have this profile rather than to have just a single spot, which practically gives you no whatsoever. That's the whole beauty of this device, that you can monitor yourself as frequently as you like, no pain, no incremental cost, and everybody happy. These are the accumulation of the results, and we describe it on a consensus error grid for type 2. You can see the acceptable zones, clinically acceptable zones are A and B zones. You can see that we have almost 100% in those 2 zones. The preferred one, of course, is the A zone, and you see that we have over 90% in the A zone. This is the clinical way to look at it. Is to look on the MARD, and the mean ARD is 17%, and the median is even less, 12.9. Also, another way to look on that is, before that, just to show you the progress that we've done along the recent years. You see that's from 2013 until now, and you see that the main or major of the improvement has been done in the last year. So we started 3 years ago with the mean ARD of 30%. We are no worries. We are keep working on that, and we have ideas how to improve it. And this is what we are doing on a daily basis. We are working on improving the algorithms as well as the device itself, and we definitely expect the result to be even better than that. Another statistical way to look on the the accuracy. Don't try to understand it. Just go directly to the end results, which is 9.2 plus minus 7%. And the only reason I bring it is because if you compare that with continuous monitors that are in the market, there are 3 of them, which is by definition much easier to measure continuous level of glucose. So you would expect them not only that it's easy because they are invasive, so you would expect them to be much more accurate. And I can tell you without mentioning any names that the results for the other continuous monitors are going from 9.6 plus minus 8.2% all the way to 18.1 plus minus 18.1%. This is a trial that has been done in 2013, relatively recently, by Freckmann and some other people from Germany. So it shows you that our device, although it's a non-invasive, it's a spot measurement, the hardest that can be, still the reliability of the device is very high. So in conclusion, we are working on this for over 10 years, actually a little bit over 13 years to be more precise. We measured so far tons of people, over 800 people that we measured, both type 1, type 2, and pre-diabetics, over 57,000 of data points that we collected. So you can imagine that, we know what are we talking about. The downside or the bad news is that in this field, in the medical devices field, you cannot cut edges. You have to work step by step. You have to progress slowly but safely, and that's why it takes so long. People ask me, why it takes you so long? And in general, to develop a medical device takes between 10 to 15 years. If you are, obviously, the longer it takes. And we are very, very, very innovative. Actually, for us, it's in one hand is a very, very nice challenge. On the other hand, every hurdle that we find on the way, we have to go all the way to find out what's the reason for that, because there are no references that we can use. So we are really inventing the wheel in everything that has to do in this field. The bottom line, the device as it is now show reliable tracking of the glucose level. And we saw some examples. It's suitable for type 2 as well as for pre-diabetics as well. We keep working. We have a lot of work in front of us. We constantly improving the device. I already mentioned it, both by improving the algorithm as well as the hardware device. We are in the process, and that's a good news for the American people. We are in the process with the US FDA. We expect to begin the trials in the States early next year, hopefully in the first quarter. In China also, we are in the process. From Korea, I think I mentioned it already. We just recently, about a month ago, we received the approval for South Korea. And we are also working on making the device available and suitable for type 1 as well as for minors. It, generally speaking, goes together. And we are thinking about new generation, new products, and variety of other sub-products as well. So I think that concludes my presentation, and I hope that you gained the information as much as I could. So let's go to the other screen. Technology again.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Avner. Seems like a great device, and certainly it would fill a great need. And for people listening that don't know what a diabetic goes through, and I don't know if you've been stuck before, Gene, but it's very painful to get to test your glucose. Some people have to test glucose more than once a day. So, well, would you like to answer questions now, Avner, or can you show your device now? What would you rather do?
I'll be more than happy to show the device.
Yeah, that would be great. If you could do
yeah,
that.
But as long as I'll be able to show the camera for some reason.
Okay.
Click green button. So there you go.
There you go.
There you go. You're back on.
So you saw the picture of the device. Now you can see it's not only a picture, it's a real device. To explain in short how it works, I turn it on. As you remember, I said that the device is user-friendly. So currently we can see that the device recognized that there is no ear clip attached. So therefore I attach the ear clip. And then immediately the device recognizes that that particular ear clip refers to me.
Okay.
It's calibrated for this one. It takes about 10 seconds for the device to communicate with the ear clip, to check that everything is okay, and then that also this particular ear clip is calibrated. I'm not sure if you noticed, but it says right ear. It also said right ear. It reminds me that I was calibrated in my right ear. The only thing that I have to do now is just to clip the device to clip the ear clip to my earlobe, as you can see right here, and the device start measuring. Now, the first question that it asks me, have you ever any meal within the past 1 hour? And the reason is that the previous measurement that I've done, the device asked me, did I have any meal? And I said yes, because I had some sandwich. So now the answer is no, and therefore I push in here the X. I didn't eat anything. And you can see the circle bar in the middle progressing. You see the green built itself. And actually, it takes about a minute to be over. As you can see, because the measurement is in the earlobe, I can keep working. I can keep do whatever we want. Although we don't recommend to dance during measurement. Stable.
Okay.
But once the measurement will be done, and that the three technologies, then the device will beep because it's also suitable for blind people. The device will beep and will tell you to remove the ear clip. And once I remove the ear clip, then it will give me the results and also will verbally. So I'll do that and I'll shut up so everybody will be able to hear it.
Avner, do you feel anything during the test?
Okay. And then go to the menu. I can go to see my history data. I can choose a list, and you can see here a list. Also the details about all my measurements, when I started to, when I ended to, what was the lower level, what was the highest level, as well as the average. I prefer to look at it as a graph. You can see here that you can see it also as a graph, and there is a cursor, the yellow line. I'll move it a little bit so it will be easier to see. Okay, and wherever the yellow line stands, then you can see here the reading, the time and the date of the reading. The green line in the middle, that's the average, and the green number is also the average. Also, it shows you the first measurement, when was it, what was the level, the last measurement, when was it, what was the level. And if you don't monitor yourself more than 24 hours, you see in what you see now in the screen is actually the dots are not connected. You are measuring yourself more often than 24 hours, then the dots will be connected. If I like, I can also filter the results and show only the last day, the last 30 days, or my favorite. I can choose between two different dates. Like, for example, when you go to a vacation and you give yourself a little freedom and you want to see what's the impact of this freedom on your glucose level. So you choose only the beginning of the vacation as an example and the end date of the vacation, and then the device will on these readings during that period of time, and will also calculate the average for that particular period of time, without of course losing the entire data. You measure yourself frequently enough, also the device will be able to calculate the HbA1c level. If you're not measuring yourself frequently enough, then the device will show not enough data. As you can see, very easy to use, very straightforward. My fingers are bleedless. You can share this data with your doctors. You know, based on the average data, they can decide about your medication. We're currently working on an add-on that will come right here as an accessory, which is called WLM, wireless module, and that will contain both Wi-Fi as well as the Bluetooth. So if there is Wi-Fi around, it will be able to send the data directly to the cloud. And if there is no Wi-Fi, then it can the data to your phone by Bluetooth, and then the phone will be able to send it through the net. I think that's more or less about this nice baby.
Very good, Avner. Gene, you have any questions for Avner?
Yes, Abner, I wanted to find out how did you choose the three ways that you measure the heat, electromagnetism, and ultrasound? How did you decide on those parameters to be the measures?
These are the type of questions that I really like. It brings me back to over 30 years ago. First of all, we decided to have a variety of technologies simultaneously. And we came up with the magic number of 3 because in one hand, it gives you enough information. On the other hand, it still sounds like practical and feasible to combine them in a single device. The next question was the right technologies, because there are 2 parameters that are taken in consideration. One, the accuracy level of the technologies, in our case, the 3 technologies, should be more or less the same level, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. And 2, they should not interfere each other. I can tell you that our patent talks about more than 20 different potential technologies. We were looking on them. We did some trials, and that was during the feasibility study. And eventually we came up with these technologies. But I'll tell you a story that, at the beginning, we had some problems because of the interference, because of the mutual interference between the technologies. And actually, at a certain point, we thought even to use sensor in both ears, but it does look like, a nice device. And then, when you think out of the box and you look for the simple solutions, that the rule of thumb says that the simple solution is the best. And then we said, okay, why are we so working hard in order to combine the technologies simultaneously? Let's do it sequentially. Bingo, that's what we did. Still, the whole process takes less than a minute. So from the user point of view, we can still talk about simultaneously. However, in reality, don't tell it to anyone. In reality, the measurements are done sequentially, and therefore we get rid of the problem of the interference.
Certainly it has great use in the regular it sounds like it has great use for regular diabetics. Is it recommended for emergencies in the emergency room?
No, this device is for home use. Okay. And the main reason is the need for individual calibration. Okay. That's one point. And the other way, in the emergency room, the patient in any case has so many needles inside his body, so we don't see that as the major market.
Right, but yeah, that's just a small part of the market, anyways.
Exactly.
There's a giant. Now, how far along are you with the FDA, Avner?
As I said, we expect to begin the clinical trials early next year, most likely the first quarter. We already have all the official approvals, so we already met with the FDA, and we have the protocol ready. So we are now negotiating with the sites clinical trials in the States, and I hope we'll be able to start doing that, conducting the trials. However, I like to match expectations. This process takes time. There are no predicate device, and therefore there is no way that the device would go through a 510K process. So that takes time. And I would say that probably actually you already asked me how far are we. So I can only estimate, but I would say that the fair estimation we'll talk about something like in the neighborhood of a year and a half.
Mm-hmm. The patients that have been in the study.
What do you have to?
Go ahead, Gene. Go ahead.
One by one.
Sorry. So what do you have to prove in the study? What do you have to show?
We are the same as we did in the CE mark approval. Actually, the clinical trials are more or less the same. We have to compare between our device and gold standard device. And we have to show, and that's the main reason for the time, we have to show that indeed the calibration is valid for the entire 6 months, and also that the ear clip is valid for the entire 6 months. Again, we already did it for the CE mark. You know, we don't have any concern about it, but it's just a matter of time consuming.
Yeah, you have to do it.
Yeah. During testing, I wanted to ask you, when the ear clip was on and it was doing its testing, do you feel anything? Is there any sensation at all?
Can you repeat the question? You were
when you put on the ear clip onto the ear, is there any kind of sensation? Is there any kind of pain? Anything at all?
Oh, absolutely not.
Feel?
Absolutely not. Actually, you saw the amount of measurement that we've done so far. We didn't have even one single adverse event. Nothing.
All right.
And actually, I show you more than that, Gene. If you look here, this is the ear clip. This is a screw, and actually we have a special screwdriver. So before you do the calibration, you adjust the distance of the sensors in order to be suitable to your earlobe. We don't want it to squeeze your earlobe because then it changes the tissue. So it has to be, in one hand, it has to be convenient. On the other hand, you know, unfortunately, or not unfortunately, practically we have the gravitation. To lose, then it will fall down. So we have to maneuver between the two requirements and to find out the right position. But then, and it's important to understand that all this process is instructed by the device. However, we mentioned many times about the user friendliness. The device is also gives the user at the end of the process of adjustment, user, are you comfortable? And if the user says, you know, it's a little bit too squeezy, then it gives certain amount of freedom for the user to open it in such a way that it won't be uncomfortable. That's the whole idea.
You know, the patients you tried it on, Avner, they must be pretty happy.
The what, sorry?
The patients that you tried it on must be pretty happy they're not getting stuck with a needle or that device that sticks your finger.
I can only tell you that the amount of emails that are received from all over the world, and I tell you up front, at the moment we don't do any commercialization. I mean, any commercial, not commercialization. We do commercialization, of course. We don't do any commercials out of the country that we have distributors already. And people hear about the device, and people call us, and I receive, not me, my team receive every single day, literally from all over the world, requests from where I can buy the device. I'll fly to Israel. My auntie is going to Israel. Just let me know where I can buy the device. That's okay. It's a real unmet need.
Okay, Gene, you have a question?
Yeah, I got a couple more here. I wanted to ask you why do you have to replace the ear clip every 6 months? What happens to it?
This question. It's mainly because of mechanical aging. As you see, we have here a spring. We encourage the people to use it as many times as possible. The spring has fatigue, and after a certain amount of times, it may break. So we did some tests in order to see what is this breaking point, how many times you can do it without breaking the spring. And obviously, we took some margin to be on the safe side, and we concluded what happens if the user is using the device even 20 or 30 times a day, and still the ear clip should maintain for the entire 6 months. So by definition, we have some margin there, but we are very convincing, again, based on trials, that the ear clip will stay stable with the full characterizations for the entire 6 months.
What about you said that it's not currently indicated for type 1 diabetes patients. What technologically is the limiting factor? Is there any? Or? Okay.
If you remember when I spoke about when I showed the examples, I mentioned that even if there are fluctuations, still the device tracks these fluctuations. The problem with type 1 is that the fluctuation are one, faster, and two, higher intensity. So for any device, that, by the way, it's a very common issue also for the continuous monitors, the invasive continuous monitors, to track these fast and high intensity fluctuations. It's hard because you don't do that in the blood, but in the interstitial fluid, because of the lag time and because of some other parameters. So this is the limitation. We have to adopt the algorithm in such a way that it will be able to be suitable also for these fast fluctuations. And if you remember, I said that we are working on type 1 and minors, and that's exactly the issue. We are working on the algorithm in order to be suitable also for fast fluctuations.
Okay, go ahead.
I guess last question from me. I wanted to ask you if your technology has, if you look, at least have you looked into possibility of this technology measuring some other biomarker, you know, or doing a hemoglobin count or something similar? Have you looked into any of that?
I'll tell you in two ways. If I was a pure marketing person, I would tell you, yes, definitely. The name of the company, we are called Integrity. We believe in integrity. So I'll tell you the truth. The answer is no. There is enough work to measure glucose. So you know, we believe that we have to concentrate, and therefore we concentrate on the glucose.
You know, we were talking before the show about China. Are the regulatory requirements in China pretty stringent also? And do you plan on you mentioned you plan on introducing the product in China, but can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I can tell you that regulatory bodies around the world sort of compete with each other. Who is going to be tougher? These are very tough regulatory body. I tell you, their requirements are very, very tough. A very high level of requests. We're in the middle of the process, as I said. So far, everything that we've done properly, and we've done successfully. Still, we have some work to go there, and I can't get into further details, unfortunately. The only thing that I can say is that we are in the middle of the process, and I also can't tell at the moment how long it's expected to take.
Okay. Okay. Any more questions, Gene?
No, I think this was great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Avner, very, very good presentation, and wish you luck, because you'll certainly help the life of diabetics around the world.
Millions
if it works out well. And we look forward to maybe having another hangout in a while to trace your progress and getting it approved by the FDA. So we'll wrap this. Anything, parting words, Avner?
Yes, with your permission, I want to say something to refer to a good friend of ours. I mentioned it, but this particular model that we are talking about is called DFF. GlucoTrack is the name, is the brand name, and the model name. We're talking about not only about this device, but about a family of devices. This is the first one, and the model name, I don't know if it's can be seen here. The model name is DF-F. What's the meaning of DF? How did we start? We three people: David Freger, Dr. David Freger, David Malka, and myself were working in another company. And David Freger was diabetic, and he told me, "Let's develop a non-invasive glucose monitor." At that time, I tell you frankly, I didn't know anything about the disease. I hardly know how to spell it. And but you know, it sounds like a good challenge. And I said, okay, let's go for it. We did some study. We understood that we are talking about a huge market. We are talking about an unmet need. So let's go for it. Unfortunately, David Freger, he was one of the leading physicists in the world. He was expert in mainly in ultrasonic. He passed away from diabetes complications at the age of 48. 2004. So therefore, we decided to call the devices after his name, and that's the DF stands for. Devices will be called GlucoTrack DF, and then dash some letter which refers to that particular model. That's our way to memorialize his name, and not only that, we have obligation for hundreds of millions of people around the world with diabetes that we want there to make their life much easier, much better, but also we have our obligation to lay David Frager, and therefore, you can imagine, we can't allow ourselves to fail.
Very good. Very good. Well, I'd like to thank you, Gene, for coming out, and Avner, thank you. I'm going to officially end the broadcast, and we'll just hang out and chat. So let me officially end this. Okay, thank you for coming to medgadget.com.
Thank you, Avner.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.